Saving lives or saving markets? Apparently, that's a tough choice. I'm Francesca Fiorentini, and this is Newsbroke's Helter Shelter series, coming to you from my one-bedroom LA apartment, which, after 3 weeks of self-quarantine, I've converted into my very own post-apocalyptic Pee-wee's Playhouse.
Today's secret word is...
sacrifice!
Now, you all know what you need to do when you hear the secret word, right?
Scream! Today we're looking at how defeating coronavirus will mean deflating the Dow, and yet accepting that reality is something the president and the hardline conservatives advising him are trying to prevent at all costs. Yes, even our lives. There still is yet to be a nationally coordinated effort to end the pandemic through mass testing, mass production of medical supplies, or nationwide lockdowns, which many experts say need to happen for months. That's partially why the US has the most cases of coronavirus so far in the world, and counting. Instead, Trump first floated the idea of loosening social distancing restrictions by Easter Sunday, because there's no better way to celebrate Jesus than by letting millions meet him in the afterlife. Trump then graciously agreed to extend the CDC guidelines to April 30th. Now, maybe that was based on science, but it was probably because he realized Tiffany was going to be visiting for Easter, and you know that would have been an awkward encounter.
Oh, wonderful, we can all hug again. Yes, Tiffany, right after the egg hunt. Is she still looking at me?
Either way, press conference after press conference has proven that Trump's brain truly is a magnificent cocktail of ignorance to the reality of COVID-19 and callous disregard for the human lives it claims.
If we could hold that down, as we're saying, to 100,000, it's a horrible number. Maybe even less, but to 100,000. So we have between 100 and 200,000. We all together have done a very good job.
Okay, first of all, that's not even an achievable number without nationally coordinated action. And secondly, that's not a number to brag about. Also, rest assured that no matter how many people die from coronavirus, Trump will absolutely claim he did a good job.
Compared to the Black Plague, we're doing great. Compared to the Spanish flu, we're doing fantastic. Compared to the meteor that wiped out all the alleged dinosaurs, we're winning big league.
But Trump's thinking is honestly more sinister than crass, because there's one number that he and his cronies and even media pundits care a lot about: the stock market. And they talk about its recent slide using an alarming metaphor.
Stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding.
Stop the bleeding.
Stop the economic bleeding.
Global markets just cannot shake the coronavirus. How will the president try to stop the bleeding?
Yeah, the market's bleeding so much you wonder if it's on its period. Because she is moody. Am I right? Up high. No? No? Insensitive? Okay. It's almost like they care more about markets bleeding than people bleeding. Newsbroke has looked at the stock market before and how it's just a legal casino that gambles away our future so Jerry from Fidelity can get bottle service. The stock market isn't a good indicator for a healthy economy, given that 84% of all stocks owned by Americans belong to the wealthiest 10% of households. Yet, when it comes to coronavirus, the market seems to be the only measurement that worries conservatives. This at a time when the Fed estimates we may hit 32% unemployment, which tops unemployment numbers during the Great Depression. But who cares? How's your portfolio? In fact, some have been letting their free market flag fly a little too high, like Texas Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick.
We can't lose our whole country. We're having an economic collapse. Let's get back to work. Let's get back to living. Let's be smart about it. And those of us who are 70 plus, we'll take care of ourselves, but don't sacrifice the country.
Sacrifice? He said the secret word!
What is he saying? That seniors should be left to fend for themselves like some AARP Thunderdome? The first senior to master TikTok shall be granted a ventilator. The same sentiment was echoed by radio host and less accomplished Tiger King Glenn Beck.
I'm in the danger zone. I would rather have my children stay home and all of us who are over 50 go in and keep this economy going and working Even if we all get sick, I'd rather die than kill the country.
No, don't say that. What would we do without you? Just so we're clear, these guys are saying they're willing to kill themselves and millions of others, all to please the all-powerful line graph representing the invisible hand of the free market. How is this not a cult? I'm starting to think Jim Jones didn't actually die. He just changed his first name to Dow. Cause like Dow Jones, it's a stock market. It's fine. This morbid cynicism of putting the economy or rich people's poker chips before human lives isn't just something media commentators have expressed. It's what's guiding the Trump administration's response to coronavirus and the money attached to it. The $2 trillion stimulus package has both Wall Street and lobbyists licking their chops. Even though there are stipulations and oversight committees on the money, Trump has pushed back and said implementation will pretty much be up to him and Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin. So we just handed over $2 trillion to a corrupt, impeached president and his Treasury Secretary who earned the nickname Foreclosure King after the last recession. But on the plus side, I just bedazzled my jean jacket. It's the little things. Just listening to the way this administration explains the goal of the stimulus package gives you a sense of who they hope it helps.
The assistance bill here, which does have growth incentives, will help lead us back to a very strong economic rebound before this year is over.
I think that too. I think we're going to have a tremendous rebound at the end of the year, toward the end of the year. I think we're going to have a rebound like we have never seen before. Even now, it wants to rebound. You can see it, feel it. It wants to rebound so badly.
Why are we talking about the stock market like it's getting out of a long-term relationship?
It wants to rebound so badly. Dust off that red dress, hook up with some randos, and just YOLO.
Maybe the market doesn't need to rebound. Maybe it needs to learn to be alone. We're all doing it. Another thing to know about that clip, besides the very overeager predictions about the market, is that the guy talking about growth incentives is Trump's top economic advisor, Larry Kudlow. No, he's not an economist, but he did play one on CNBC for many years. Kudlow's entire legacy has been about bolstering finance at the expense of people's lives. In 2002, he advocated for the invasion of Iraq because the, quote, shock therapy of decisive war will elevate the stock market by a couple thousand points. And in 2011, right after an 8.9 earthquake and tsunami hit Japan, Kudlow said this.
The human toll here looks to be much worse than the economic toll, and we can be grateful for that.
Grateful? Okay, now we know what the Kudlow family Thanksgiving looks like. Dear Lord, we are grateful for the gang violence in Central America that has provided the migrant labor that has given us this affordable meal. So while everyone in the healthcare community was pleading with Trump for weeks to take coronavirus seriously, Trump instead was listening attentively to people like Kudlow, who consistently puts markets over lives. And this is what he was saying back in early March about COVID-19 from the White House press briefing room.
We don't actually know what the magnitude of the virus is going to be, although frankly so far it looks relatively contained. And we don't think most people, the vast majority of Americans are not at risk for this virus.
Do the math. A couple million isn't the vast majority. We'll have 328 million Americans left over. That's plenty of low-wage workers. Oh, I did not watch that class. Finally, it turns out Trump's idea to have everyone back to work by Easter might have been spurred by a meeting earlier that day of some very Machiavellian minds.
The White House earlier today convened a call with major Wall Street and hedge fund investors to get their views on what's happening in the markets and the U.S. economy. These individuals from Wall Street were on the call. Dan Loeb from hedge fund Third Point, Jeff Sprecher from ICE and the New York Stock Exchange.
Yeah, Jeff Sprecher. You might not have heard of him, but he is the CEO of the company that owns the New York Stock Exchange, which apparently is a thing. But you might have heard of his wife, Georgia Senator Kelly Loeffler, who was one of a handful of senators to sell off stock after being briefed about coronavirus. $3 million of both of her and her husband's holdings. Like, how is that legal? How is any of this legal? It's probably all illegal. Because even the cronies in DC and Wall Street know this economy isn't rebounding. Not while the government continues to have no game plan to test, save lives, and quarantine communities. The economy isn't just a line that goes up or down. The economy is made up of people. People who make businesses and banks a lot of money. People who are now out of work. People who can't make rent this month and who are struggling to get healthy themselves. And people who sure as hell won't be rebounding with $1,200. Maybe it's time to rethink this death duel between people and the economy. And for once, let finance make the sacrifice. Uh-oh! Thank you once again for watching Newsbroke. We really appreciate it. So make sure to like this video and also share it. Share it with all the people who need to hear it and maybe people who don't want to hear it, but they need to hear it anyway. And because the economy is made up of people, we want to hear from you. How are you doing? Do you still have a job? What's going on with unemployment? How is your state handling this current crisis? Let us know in the comments below, and we will see you soon. Hang in there.